Hey, everybody. Spot of said nerd here. And I don't know if this is going to be a short podcast or a longer podcast, but I definitely wanted to get my 2 cents in the wonderful world of politics. Oh my god, I can hear and feel your enthusiasm when I say that word. If you are not aware, probably one of the most important elections ever will be happening Tuesday night, Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, wherever you decide to vote. And I want to just talk about it a little bit because I think it is more important now than ever to start standing up and speaking out against so many words, disaster that has occurred over the last 2 years. Now, I've mentioned before through YouTube, through this new podcast, so on and so forth. Excuse me. You know, I don't intend to be disrespectful to anybody specifically, to one side or the other. I think what it really comes down to is anybody who is anybody has a right to their own opinions, has a right to their own freedoms, and essentially has a right to be basically whoever they want to be. And when that revolves around the politic aspect, is there a right or wrong? Question mark. I would say in some instances, yes. I mean, again, that's a rabbit hole we can go down another day, another time, but I think what I'm trying to get at, because again, I'm always worried about, I have to make sure I don't say something that'll get me fired or whatever you want to call it, because I do enjoy having health benefits and health insurance. But what I'm trying to really get at is I am different, extremely different in terms of I live in the Pacific Northwest. I live in Washington. And without necessarily classifying myself, because I am one of those people that doesn't necessarily like putting a title on it, but obviously you do kind of have to put a title on it. I am very much more on the right and very much more on the conservative side of things. But at the same time, and the reason why I don't like the title stuff is because I don't give two fucks about, you know, when in other topics of like with gay marriage and things like that. If two dudes want to get married, go for it. Two chicks want to get married, go for it. I really don't care. It's none of my business. When it becomes my business is when I do have a problem with it. And that's just, again, an example. I think of a lot of the divide we have right now, a lot of the divide we have in society and politics in general, is because, to be frank, people like myself, we just want to be left alone. We want to be able to live our life as free as possible. We don't break rules, laws, we don't burn cities down. We simply just want to be left alone. Do you need a government? Sure. We are humans, we're human species, blah, blah, blah. There's been governments since history began. But again, what it really comes down to is, especially over the last 2 years, I really, 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 really hope that whatever side you are on, and yes, you can be on both sides, but you clearly will be on one versus the other more. I really do hope that you start to look at what is around you and what is going on in your own life, and let that be the judge of what you vote for this coming midterm election. You don't have to classify yourself as left or right, or one way or this way or that way, or blah, blah, blah. But you do have to start looking at the real side of things. And I'm talking about gas prices that are double, if not triple, what they were just 2, 3 years ago. Look at your groceries. Simply going out to eat at a restaurant or going to a movie, whatever it might be, how much is that costing you right now? Look at your electricity bills right now. Look at your phone bills right now. Look at your crime. Just today, now, without giving you too many details of where I work, odds are if you know me, you already know where I work, but I've kind of made it my point with this channel that I'm not going to deliberately tell you where I work. You can find me on LinkedIn, so let me just say that. It'll tell you where I work. Just today, there was a carjacking where literally somebody stole a car right in the parking lot of where I work via gunpoint. I guess somebody, this is legitimate. You can look it up. Bellevue Square Mall. Somebody was shot, carjacking. And not only is it just, I mean, to be frank, it's scary. I've unfortunately also I've also been in a shooting situation where I had to be locked down. And never in my life would have I expected to have to be at my work, at my employment, and be escorted away by policemen with AR-15s or rifles, etc. It's I'm sick and tired of it. And I think that's kind of really where my passion is stemming from is I am so sick and tired of it. And if you live in a similar area that I do, or if you live in a similar city that are run by these people that borderline almost encourage it or don't show any sort of I don't know if the word empathy or whatever the word is, to basically, they don't give a shit because they are being paid far more than the average Joe middle class. They are protected, they live in communities where there is no crime, etc., so on and so forth. And yet we are the ones that have to suffer the consequences. There is no consequence anymore in places like this. And I am definitely referring to Seattle. Tell me the last time you went downtown and you felt comfortable. And I'm being very serious with that question. I'm not trying to be silly or parody or whatever. Tell me the last time, if you were in Seattle, that you went downtown and you felt comfortable. Or I'll tell you what, leave a dollar bill on your front seat of your car and park your car downtown. I'll give you an hour before your car window's smashed. I know it's probably over dramatic or whatever you want to call it. But it's another reason, again, why I'm very pro Second Amendment, is because I do believe in the right to self defense. Now, obviously, I am not carrying a weapon when I'm at work, but I did get my CPL license. If you don't know what a CPL license is, or a permit rather, it's basically a permit to carry your firearm. It's a concealed carry permit. Now, again, for those FBI agents listening, for those policemen listening, I'm never going to tell you when or where I'm going to be having that, but I'm just saying that there are going to be times I am. Because again, where I live, unfortunately, things like this happen, and they are happening more and more and more. And because, I have mad respect for most of the policemen out there and most of the first responders, they can't be everywhere at once. So when I was involved years ago in that shooting situation, and then today we have yet another robbery shooting situation, just going into work, now more than ever is when I not only do I want to start speaking out more, but I also am going to make sure that others are aware of my stance. I do work for a company that prides itself on inclusion and diversity. The unfortunate side of that is I have never felt more alone because of the views I do possess with that. And the reason I mention that is because, again, the example today I'm going to use with the robbery, etc. There wasn't any game plan. There wasn't any like, hey, if this happens, this is what we need to do. You know, once in a blue moon, they'll ask you, hey, do you know where the escape route is? Do you know the emergency route? Blah, 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 blah. Pretty much can guarantee you 99.9% of people have no idea what to do. Hopefully, you are smart enough to know if you are in a shooting situation, you run, you duck, you hide, whatever you need to do to make sure you're safe. But it's just scary the fact that we now have to go to work with that in mind. And then, the devil's advocate to that statement there would be, well, guns are violent, blah, 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 school shootings this, school shootings that. Nobody's saying those are not horrible either. I want to make sure that's clear as well. School shootings are terrible. And I am fully on board with background checks and, all this other stuff when it comes to owning a firearm. But again, I think it's just, and I hate to be stalling. You can hear it in my voice. The stallingness is because so much I want to spew out, but without making myself compromised, I guess is the right word. So what I'm gonna go, there's so many roads I could go down in that path. What I am just trying to get at is please, please start realizing what is happening in front of us and what we can do to change it. Because that is the optimistic side of all of this, is you have the chance to change this. You have a chance to put more policemen on the road, to put more first responders in the hospitals and in places where people need the most help. You have a way to get people more food and lower bills and everything in between that is more towards a positive life for you and your family. But you have to do it. You know, these politicians are evil. And I say that both sides. Both sides are evil. And I think if you can just get that and if you can just understand that fact alone, then you're at least your mind is in the right direction. Because trust me, I am not blind to the fact that both sides, the entire, it's all about control and it's all about division. The more they keep us divided, the more control these people have. Look at your president right now. The dude has been in public office for 50 years. Tell me one thing that this man has done in a positive way. Just one. And again, without even trying to be funny or parody or whatever, I would genuinely love to hear one thing this man has done positively. I cannot tell you one. I can tell you a lot of bad that he's done, but that's neither here nor there. When it comes to your local aspect, look at your governors, look at your state senators, etc. What have these people done that have benefited your life? I can promise you, I can only tell you negatives for this, if anything, for this city and for this state. The summer of love back in 2019, 2020, etc., turned out to be a summer of death because people died. You look at these places where, you know, the sanctuary cities, all this other stuff, you know, without going into the detail because you can look this information up. There's more human feces per square foot around these cities now than there is actual, land or trash. And it's not, and again, I know I'm a broken record when I say this. I'm not trying to be silly or I'm not trying to be funny. These are stated facts. The homeless population is growing exponentially, but yet these politicians in office will send billions of dollars overseas to fight a war that makes absolutely no sense for us to be involved in whatsoever. People complain and bitch and moan about Elon Musk and how he's got $44 billion to buy Twitter, he could feed the hungry or could do this and do that. And I'm like, you realize we've literally sent to Ukraine roughly over $50 billion, right? Can you tell me why? I can, but can you? Because I can promise you it's not to help the war effort. These are things amongst a bazillion other things that I really hope you start to take a look at and see, and hopefully maybe just your brain starts to go, huh, you know what? He's got a point. I'm not saying you have to agree with me. I'm not saying you even have to align with me, in terms of just kind of like seeing what I'm saying and being like, okay, I get what you're saying, blah, 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 blah. All I would ask is that you do respect it. And I would ask that you just maybe take a step back and go, okay, let me look into see what he's talking about. It's not hard. It's not hard to see just your, homicide rates climbing. It's not hard to see your bank accounts depleting quicker than normal. It's not hard to see your 401ks nosediving. But at the end of the day, at the end of all of it, you have to be the one to make change. And sure, I might be a bit of a hypocrite saying that, with my citizenship aspect, but I am going to be making that change. As I mentioned, I am currently looking into becoming a dual citizen of the United States. So I will be then able to make the change. I will be able to vote and I will be able to help drive these passions so that I can have a better future. Because right now, and sure, we can go down that road later, but sure, I'm the one that decides to be here. I'm the one that decides that, hey, I'm going to stay in Washington when I could very easily move. But of course, my excuse will be life. So there's certain things in life right now that I need to take care of before I get out of here. But that doesn't mean I can't make a change now and I can't make a change here. Just because just moving doesn't make your problems go away. Holy hell, have I learned that the hard way. I am no stranger to challenges and difficulties in life. And have I tried moving away to fix them? Absolutely. And I have failed miserably. But the best thing about it is I learned from those failures. It's no different in politics. I say as a Trump supporter, I've said this, I am a Trump supporter. Before Trump, you had 8 years of Obama. Now, I will not badmouth him, but I will also tell you that he did not have the best presidency. Then you had Trump for 3.5, 4 years. Some of us, we don't necessarily classify that last 6 months of anything because COVID situation, etc. And now you have 2 years of yet more original politicians. So you have Bush, you have Obama, Trump, Biden. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at the facts when it came to the economy, when it came to your life in terms of, and what I mean by life is, your overall growth, spending, the money you make, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at what Trump did in 3 years, what these other guys couldn't do in 8, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, or 50 years. You don't have to like the guy, but you can't be blind to the fact that you actually were living a better life when he was in office. If all you care about is a tweet, you really need to reevaluate your life. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean that in a hopefully you will reevaluate yourself in terms of if you are basing your life off of a Twitter feed, God help us. Seriously. And I think, again, without going down too many roads, that is where optimistically we can come together. Technology, I think technology, there's good and there's bad. With technology, I think it's one of the most amazing things that it can bring us together. It can bring us together in ways that we never have thought imaginable. We can share ideas, we can share our passions, and share our love with one another. That's what we need to start doing so that we can start showing these a-holes in office that, yeah, you work for us, the people. We don't work for them. The government does not work for us. No, sorry, reverse. Yeah, again, you know where I'm going. The bottom line is the government works for us, not the other way around. And the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you will start to realize not only what is really going on around you, but the fact that you can actually change it. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say this again to kind of wrap up this podcast. This election is going to be crucial, historical, everything in between, because freedom has never been more at stake than it is right now. Little by little, day by day, governments around the world just continue to just take away freedom after freedom after freedom after freedom. America really is the last stronghold for true freedom. You look at the Constitution. Number one, freedom of speech. Number two, the right to own a firearm. You look at the Bill of Rights. You look at this, you look at that. This country is built on a republic. That means that you get to live the best life that you possibly can, but it also means you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to legally do what you need to do to make sure that you are successful and that you can live the best life that you possibly can. So if you don't have that, that's on you, not anybody else. And I think, if anything, that's the harsh reality a lot of people need to come to terms with. It is not up to me to make sure that you have a good life or a career or whatever you want. You need to do you. And the sooner as well we start figuring that out as a society, the sooner you will see things get so much better for everybody. Your own friend, your own friends, your own family, your neighbors, your strangers across the street, everything will be better if we can just come together. It's so cliche you want to throw up. I get it. I'm not an idiot. And yes, there are evils in this world. I'm not stupid to that. But I just, again, broken record, open your eyes, do your research, see what's really going on, and get out and vote. Even if, you know what, even if you have opposing viewpoints as I do, I can respect that. That's why we live here. That's why we have such a great way of life here, is because you're allowed to have those viewpoints. Now, do I believe censorship exists? Absolutely, 100%. I am proof of that. I have been shadow banned beyond belief because of my viewpoints. But there are ways that we're starting to get around that. I mean, for example, YouTube blocks people, but you have Rumble. Um, Musk, Elon now with Twitter that he owns it. Yeah, guess what? All these conservative people finally are going to start to get that voice back. Those are paths we don't need to go down right now. But what I'm getting at is this country allows us to be who we are. But quicker than I can even think now, more and more of those freedoms are being taken by the day. New laws are being written, new this and new that are being written to restrict everybody for being themselves. This government wants nothing but control. And when they can't have control, they put fear and worry and anxiety amongst everybody. They control the media, they control everything to basically get you divided and to get you fearful. But we as a human species are so much better than that. And I hope one day you figure that out. I really do. I learned this years ago. But you have to wake up. And I say that as a metaphor, obviously, but I do also mean it literally. You have to wake up to what is really going on around you. You know, you look at some of these other places around the world, China, North Vietnam, you know, people disappear for having a different viewpoint. People disappear when they go against the government. We can't be that. We cannot do that. We have to be the defining country that shows the world you can be as free as we are and still exist and be the best possible version of itself you can possibly be. It ain't hard. It's not rocket science. We just have to wake up and come together. So I'm not apologizing for my little TED talk here or my passion speak here because I mean every word of it, amongst a thousand other meanings of passion and positivity and negativity and realism and everything in between. Because again, there's so much more I would love to say and so much more we're gonna talk about in the future. Carefully, of course, because again, I like having a job and medical insurance, but I am not gonna be quiet anymore. I am done sitting back and watching people walk all over me, just speak all over me in a negative way, in a just nasty, horrific, vile way. I'm not taking it anymore. And yes, the thing is, the way I'm going to outdo that is I'm going to be more respectful and I'm going to be more outspoken when I'm doing it. You know, I've told people this before, I have family, friends, coworkers. You know, when I go to work, it's amazing that on an hourly basis, somebody that I either work with or somebody that I've heard through the general public shares some sort of viewpoint that basically wishes harm on other people. That is disgusting and it has got to stop. If you're listening to this, I hope you realize if you've ever said stuff like that, you need to stop because you can have a disagreement. You can be the opposite side or this or that or blah, 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 blah. But going to this vile, horrible way of thinking and wishing harm on other people, that's a line we never should cross. And I genuinely do hope it changes one day. I really do. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, but I really do hope it changes one day. I obviously have very different viewpoints, but I never ever think of putting harm or wishing harm upon a person or a belief, an opinion, whatever you want to call it. It's just not who I am or what I do. So, yeah, again, another road we'll travel down sometime in the future. So, all right. Again, super appreciate for those of you that have made it this far, that have listened and heard me out. Maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you don't. Maybe you could give two shits what I'm saying right now, but maybe you also got something out of it. And if maybe I just touched one person, maybe if I just got to you somehow, some way, in a positive way that makes you kind of just snap your fingers and go, you know what, he actually makes a little bit of sense, then that makes me happy. And I'm really hopeful that maybe we can keep going on that trend. We can change people's minds so that they can have a better life for themselves, for their friends, for their families, and everybody else in between. Because we really can do it. It's not hard. Life is hard. There's no joke about that. It really isn't. Well, no, sorry, no, I got my words. Life is very hard, but it can also be better if we all work together for a common cause, for a common goal. And with this politics and with the midterms, we can make those changes to better ourselves and better our lives for the future that hopefully is a very, very long time. So, I will stop talking now. Thank you all sincerely from the bottom of my heart for listening this far. If you have, share me, comment me, like me, follow me, subscribe me, whatever you can do. I would genuinely super duper in the pooper appreciate it. Go out, vote. I've changed my mind. I always once said, I think back in the 2016 election, I said, don't vote because it's just horrible. No, we need to get out and you need to make those changes for the betterment of humanity, especially more now than ever. So go out, do it. I encourage you. One of my idols, of course, I've mentioned before, Steven Crowder. He hosts the show Louder with Crowder. He will be doing a live stream of the results tomorrow night, Tuesday night, whenever you hear this. He will be on Rumble as well as his mug club, which you can sign up for. There is a annual fee. I highly recommend it because you get bonus material. But he will be doing a live show on Rumble Tuesday night for the midterm elections. I encourage you to watch because you will probably learn things you never knew before, and you will probably get more truth than any other network out on television, social media, or news right now quite frankly. So do it. And with that, thank you again for the millionth time, broken record, spot of nerd, telling you that you can be the best version of yourself if you just wake up. I promise. It does get better. You just have to open your eyes. I promise. But we will talk to you guys later. All right. Bye bye, y'all.